There are two ways of looking at the fight tonight between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Povetkin, which was stopped in favour of the former in round 7. And the favourable review would say that Joshua just beat one of the best heavyweights still in the world, became the first ever man to stop him in his career. Whereas the skeptic would say that Povetkin is a 39-year-old who doesn't physically look like what he used to be, his gas tank isn't the same, and been disgraced with roids and has arguably been on a downward curve over the last couple of years anyway. Looking at him in terms of his performances, didn't seem to perhaps be the same force he used to be. Of course, was given a little bit of trouble against David Price, who was just taken out again this evening in 4 rounds. So I take the diplomatic approach and say it's a combination of the two. Joshua got the job done. He did it nicely in the end. He threw a couple of times the right hook to the body, left hook to the head, which is a very hard combination to avoid. Very nice. Whenever Joshua senses blood and he has his man hurt, he is a genuinely great finisher. I'd say a genuinely great finisher in heavyweight history, which is high praise indeed, because when he does get a dude hurt, he's in the face. He doesn't neglect the body. He doesn't get overexcited. He's the opposite of Wilder there. He starts to find the punches. His punch placement becomes better when he smells blood. For a negative, I could say perhaps he lost the first 2 rounds. He looked tactically a bit out at sea. Povetkin ended the first round with a lovely little, was it a right uppercut and a quick left hook? It stumbled him. His nose was bloody. And in the second round, which I thought Povetkin got as well, first round was up for grabs. I thought the second round Povetkin did get. Joshua starts to have this concerned look in his face, and tactically, he starts to look a bit confused. There's no consistent jab, and he's almost a bit hesitant now, and we're not seeing him flow. Later on in the fight, as he's tagged with quite a few right hands and it's becoming a pretty even fight, he starts breathing heavily as well. We've seen this a lot of times with Joshua. That huge build has a clear Achilles heel, and he starts breathing through his mouth, but he has enough savvy, physical strength, punching power, and puts his punches together well enough to complete it all and get the victory. A big negative for Joshua here in this fight is his left hand was well too low. Now, after about round 4, where you knew Povetkin being 39 was only going to fade now and he was starting to get a little bit marked up, I was getting the sense, if I was in his corner, I would have said, just go for it now. Go for broke, because you're not going to last against this younger guy. You know, don't make the mistake Klitschko made. Go for it now and just spam the right hand, because Joshua's left hand was so low and he kept carrying it low, and you know, he doesn't really have the range of movement to twist away from a shot. It's all too muscled up here. I would have been saying to Povetkin, go for that, try and time it. You might have to eat one yourself. But generally, when they were exchanging close, because of Povetkin's speed and his short arms, he was getting there first. So had I been in Povetkin's corner, say around 4, when I knew he was going to run out of gas anyway eventually, or just get caught by a big one like he ended up getting, I would have just said, just go for it. But fair play to the Russian. He showed up. He walked into the Lion's Den. Well, it's more of the Lion Coliseum, wasn't it? The size of Wembley Arena. I was a bit sceptical about this pay-per-view. I didn't think necessarily Povetkin, you know, where he is in his career, it merited this huge event again. But he certainly provided a good fight. He gave Joshua a lot to think about, but didn't quite have enough pop or enough of a gas tank to really get it going. That's levied a bit by the fact that Joshua did do well. He did explain some of his tactics later. He said he was jabbing to the body because he explained Povetkin as hard to the head but soft to the body. So he was trying to drop the hands by flicking, and then of course it eventually paid dividends. He found that nice right hand over the top. He said in the post-fight interview, my right hand's there again, and I'm lining it up for April, which is when Joshua fights again in Wembley Stadium. Eddie Hearn's just got it on repeat at the moment, but the next fight should definitely merit it, because it should be the winner of Fury and Wilder. Now, everyone wants the Wilder fight. Well, certainly it seems, in terms of when they ask the Sky Sports crew. Froch wants it, Malignaggi wants it. It's the one that makes sense. Most people, I'd say, are going to favour Wilder to win this one. I do myself. Unless Fury can have some sort of miraculous turn of form in this one training camp, I can't see it. I think his reflexes aren't the same. I think he's going to get taken out. Might be an ugly fight to watch, but I think Wilder's going to get it. And then it's just a question of whether they can sort a deal out. I really hope they can, because I think for the last couple of years anyway, that's the only real heavyweight fight that's mattered. Parker hasn't come good. Then he's lost to White. And White, I do not want a rematch between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte to go ahead. No way. There's no reason for it. Just hands up now who thinks Dillian Whyte would win. No. This is something that's just been promoted through IFL, through Sky Sports of the supposed grudge and just magnifying that one little bit of success he had in the first fight and otherwise being totally overmatched. Now, Dillian Whyte's supposed improvement over the last few fights he's had has been marginal, really, if there has been an improvement. Whereas Joshua has genuinely improved. He's just fought another guy who, well, you know, probably past his best days, stylistically showed him something else for his brain to chew over, different angles. You know, Joshua has genuinely and rapidly improved. And I've just got to give a big, you know, kudos to Joshua. 22 fights, 21 knockouts. It's a hell of a record. He's been really fast-tracked. It's strange because there is, in a way, a bit of a manufactured aspect about Joshua. I think he's sometimes hard to listen to because he's always trying to say the right things or try and give everything a philosophical tinge about let's support everybody. And it comes off sometimes as forced. I don't know, maybe that's who he is, but it's not always the easiest to listen to. But you can't argue with the stats, you know. He's beaten Parker. He beat a pretty darn good Klitschko. You have to give him kudos for how good the fight was. Just beating Povetkin. He's got a good resume. And if he goes against Wilder in April and beats Wilder as well, I mean, he's the man of his era in just like, what, a handful of fights, really. But that's the one to make. Kudos for tonight. Would a younger Povetkin have won? Maybe. Are some people going to say that? Probably. But you can't diss Joshua too much because he's making great things happen. It's all good for British boxing. But come on now, let's make it Joshua Wilder for April.